And the Chinese got my bike, and I slept they put me up on their military base, hospitality, like I'm saying, like I woke up and they were doing drills in the courtyard. And
Jesus.
I think the base was dedicated to, border stuff. I don't think they were doing anything too serious there, but still, like, I can't see an American sleeping on a Chinese military base these days.
Something you told me, and again, I'm not sure if we should put this in, we can, but you ended up on television in China.
Yeah. I was a national television celebrity in China for a brief amount of time.
How the fuck did that happen? So Uganda clearly captured you. Was it the coffee? What was it?
I think it was because they didn't throw me in jail.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Between Darth Vader and Superman, who do you think would win?
I mean, that's a tough one. They're both kind of supernatural, right? Both have magic powers.
I think it's the red tights. Superman would win.
I think Vader.
Really?
Yeah, he can like force choke people and.
But don't you think Superman is like strong enough to break through that?
I don't know. If I tried to choke Superman, he would kick the shit out of me. But if I was able to do it remotely from like across the galaxy through a video chat, through a fucking Zoom call, then like what's Superman gonna do? He's just got to take it. So because Superman has to be like present with you in order to fight you.
And that would work if I had Darth Vader powers and I had like a work Teams call and there was someone who was talking. And you just, he's like,
your lack of faith disturbing.
Exactly. Well, welcome, man. Welcome to the Coffee Bomb Show.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this. You've been an interesting person that's been coming in and out of my life, not romantically, but we've had very many interactions. The first time I met you, I'm not sure if you remember when that was.
I can't remember.
This was 2016 in Uganda.
Okay.
All right. There was a Japanese restaurant.
Maybe Yujo. I'll give him a shout. Yujo's fucking awesome. Hanif, the owner's a great community man.
Amazing.
Does a lot of good work.
So Ranjit is like, we're going to meet a bunch of heavy hitters. There's a dude called Kyle.
Heavy hitters.
He's built an internet exchange in Uganda, and it's something we want to do in Kenya as well.
Okay.
And then you come on this bike, all right?
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. It's like...
It's a dirt bike. That's how I get around Kampala.
It was weird seeing a Mzungu guy, if you don't mind me saying that, in Uganda, just standing out. I think you had someone riding with you, and you came in.
Yeah.
And you had this life of the party vibe. And I was like, okay, I'll get along with this guy.
Okay. Well, that's a good memory. Yeah.
So just for those people that don't know, Kyle is, and we'll talk about his journey, but Kyle is one of the de facto people in the internet society in Africa. You work quite actively in a lot of spheres. There's a lot of stuff I want to learn about you, but I want to start off where the genesis of all this came from. How did you get into IT? I know you're a video gamer.
Video games. I got into IT through video games.
And you grew up in the States?
Yeah, I grew up in the eastern United States.
Okay.
Yeah, in the suburbs.
And so how did gaming involve?
Both my parents worked for IBM. In fact, that's how they met and why I spawned. And so I had access to one of the first personal computers ever made back in like I was like in the early 80s.
Right.
And so when I was 3 years old, I learned how to spell on an IBM XT trying to play video games in DOS.
Jesus. And what games were those?
Jump Joe, Tapper, Archon, like...
It wasn't the hardcore
Tapper
stuff.
was a game that I think Budweiser actually sponsored. Your job was to like serve angry patrons and keep them back by feeding them beers. And if they got too close to the end and you didn't serve them, they grabbed you and fucking threw you out of the
Jesus, I don't know. Maybe we could put that up. That's from a while back. That's a throwback.
Yeah, these were all ASCII based.
Okay.
Text graphics. This was CGA monitors. They had like 16 colors or something.
You didn't have consoles at that time, did you?
So my brother was older by a number of years, and he had Atari and Nintendo. But for some reason, I just really got attached to the computer. I don't know why. I was like very, very young. So that's just what I glom to.
And what about online gaming, LAN parties and stuff?
The internet didn't really come out proper until a bit later, but I was on CompuServe and Prodigy before there was like the World Wide Web and other things. They were dial-up internet services, and then eventually I think Prodigy got like the World Wide Web before the others, and so we migrated to Prodigy.
What was Prodigy?
CompuServe, Prodigy, they were early internet commercial dial-up services in the United States.
Wow.
And this sort of like predates the commercial internet as we know it today, where you like CompuServe and Prodigy had their own like content ecosystem. So you'd log into an application and there would be like a car like section or game section or news section and messaging and whatever. But it was all through this like portal, and they curated the content and they had control over the ecosystem. It was a walled garden, right? And then when the World Wide Web came out, Prodigy, for example, integrated that into their application, and so you could then browse websites through the Prodigy application.
There was an
but then people migrated gradually to just getting a dial-up connection to the internet, right, and not into a walled garden. But the one that lived the longest and perhaps was the most famous was AOL, right? So AOL was very much like Prodigy and CompuServe, but came after, but was bigger, right? And if you remember, AOL was a similar walled garden. You know, it had its own messaging applications, its own sections and forums and boards and whatever. But it, you know, like you could also access a website through that. But then eventually people just abandoned those walled gardens and they got a dial-up connection to like AT&T or whatever. And you would just access whatever resources were on the World Wide Web because that became dominant. And then you had a connection that you could play games with, like Quake.
Yes. And Quake came out. That must have been, I think Doom came first or Quake came first?
Yeah, Doom came first. There were some other early precursors, but like, you know, back in the day you were playing like Commander Keen and Duke Nukem in 2D side scrolling or whatever. But then Doom, after Wolfenstein 3D came out, like in 1992, 1993. And then Doom came out, I think Doom came out in 93, the first Doom, shareware Doom. And so everybody was playing shareware because the concept of shareware came out, where you'd release the first episode of a game for free. And then if people wanted to pay to get the rest of the game, they would, you know, mail you money and you'd send them
a physical disc or something.
Yeah, these were you know, discs, not CDs, right?
Oh, so the what do you call, what was the name?
Well, they weren't floppy anymore, but they called them floppy disks. The original floppy disks were the 5 1/4, like big ones for the IBM XT, where you had the two big drives. Right. But Doom by that point was coming on these smaller plastic.
And was it a massive commercial success? Was everyone?
Yeah,
playing
I mean, this Doom changed the industry and like created a genre. You know, like Wolfenstein 3D had come before it, but Doom popularized computer gaming in a way that had never happened before, and opened up this like first-person shooter genre to the point where like Congress was debating whether or not they should censor violent video games because they're looking at Mortal Kombat and they're looking at Doom, and this guy Lieberman was like, "We need to protect the children."
I remember that.
You know,
there was a whole article.
Yeah, we need to censor people and you know, like.
Okay,
violate the First Amendment to stop people from having fun. And
I remember when we were talking, I'm not sure in which of the countries it was either Ivory Coast or something. This was in 2017, where you mentioned that you used to set up LAN parties.
Yeah, and that was quite common. I mean, in the very early days, not a lot of my friends had computers and were playing computer games. That, you know, if they maybe were on Nintendo and later a bit Super Nintendo or Sega or whatever. But as computer gaming became more popular, largely thanks to games like Doom, like the early Age of Empires, Quake, whatever, Unreal Tournament eventually, like that became popular enough where people would get together and bring their computers to somebody's house and you'd string up a network. And so you'd learn how to build a network just from trying to play games, just like I learned how to spell trying to, you know, get through DOS. Yeah.
And I mean, that is such a throwback because different experiences when it comes to gaming. For me, it was the consoles. Where you're 4 people playing on a TV.
Well, like Nintendo 64, with the controllers.
Remember when I'm not sure if you've ever played Halo.
I played a bit of Halo, but I never had an Xbox. So I kind of missed the Halo side. I was busy with Quake.
Yeah, Quake took over. So with Halo specifically, we would be like 4 players playing.
Yeah.
But what we would do is we would have these cardboard cutouts. So you put it so guys sitting, it's literally
so you couldn't see each other's like quadrants on there.
Yeah, exactly. So everyone has their own corner. So just imagine like a cardboard cutout balancing on my head and then a wall between us two so we can't see each other's screens. And we would literally game all night, man. That was the first experience for me where I was like, dude, I love gaming.
I carry this tradition forward. I'm about to go to the United States to spend a week with some friends that I met when I used to play Quake competitively online. And we ended up like getting to know each other in real life. And every year for the last, 25, 30 years now, we've been renting a beach house in the winter, rolling down the hurricane shutters to keep the sun out, and just setting up computers and having a 20-person LAN party. And yeah, we keep this tradition alive.
That's amazing. And which games do you normally play then?
We play a broad variety of games, although, because a lot of us are getting older and our reflexes aren't what they once were, we're now doing a bit more board gaming than we used to. But we call it analog gaming.
That's nice, man. The fact that
we still play Quake 3. We still play some real-time strategy games.
You got me onto Cyberpunk. In fact, I was telling my producer,
Cyberpunk's amazing.
Is that you're the first guy I met at the entire AfPIF delegation that's into gaming as much as we are.
So I'm not. That may be true that I'm the first person you met, but if you talk to Shala and others, there's a lot of people come from a gaming background. You'd be surprised. Yeah, as you talk to people, I think you're going to get them to reveal their secret gaming past.
Now, so we've got the gaming element over here, right?
Yeah.
You've got all the networking aspects of it, creating LAN. Is that how you were sort of indoctrinated into the ICT sphere?
Yeah. Because when in the early games, in DOS, you've got to learn how to navigate the operating system. You've got to change directories. You've got to do all this stuff, right? It's text-based. It's DOS. There's no Windows to hold your hand. So you got to learn from a very early age, when you're 3 or 4 years old or whatever, how to navigate that just to have fun. And then over the years, games started really pushing the boundaries of what hardware was capable of. And so you were trying to load games that were a bit beyond what the hardware could just run. And so you'd have to go into auto exec and config sys and whatever and modify your operating system and unload modules that were unnecessary and reboot the computer into a more thin state so that it had more resources to run some of these games that were sophisticated. So you learned a little bit about systems administration and how the inner workings were put together. And then I got in along the way into quick basic and basic programming. Further along in Quake, when I started playing Quake online, I started playing competitively, and we formed clans, basically teams competitively.
When was this, 90s?
Quake came out in 96, 97.
So you guys were this was even before the Call of Duty stuff,
well before. Call of Duty doesn't exist without games like Doom and Quake, right? No. So Quake was the first large game that you could play sort of large scale over the internet. You could play Doom online, but you had to dial into a dial-up service that was specifically for that, or you had to play over a crude local network or even a no modem cable or something, and you were limited to 2 people for that. And Doom Online maybe 4. So Quake you could play 8. And it was working over the internet, so people could launch their own servers, and so ISPs were launching servers and whatever. So I got into that, and it just really stuck with me. And then that was when people migrated from using the keyboard to navigate first-person shooters to using the keyboard and mouse. Yes. That's when rocket jumping came into existence.
Rocket jumping?
Rocket jumping is pointing the rocket launcher at the ground and firing it and jumping at the same time and landing in the ceiling and then cheesing people from the fucking roof where they can't touch it.
This was in Quake, right?
Quake,
we could put rocket jumping.
Yeah, because it was the first properly 3D game, so it allowed you that verticality and it had the physics of rockets blasting you if you.
Crazy.
So if you turned self-damage off, or if you had a ton of health, you could rocket jump into the ceiling, and then you could hide and shoot people from the sky until you ran out of ammo.
So I think that's how Halo got that, because there's a way to do that as well. Okay, so it all stemmed from Quake.
Yeah. So I got into that competitively, and through that, you're playing over the internet. Your ping time matters. You learn how to diagnose connectivity issues, and then I got into making websites for my Quake teams. We called them clans, and it turns out I was pretty good at graphic design, and that's how I learned HTML and some other basic web languages, and then started getting requests from other teams to make their websites. And then I had always had a fascination, I think from inspiration from my mother, to kind of make like business companies, whatever. So I made a fake online web design company and then started getting tons of requests to make commercial websites. Crazy. And it's should I do that, or should I work at Toys R Us?
It was all self-taught.
Yeah, because I had the internet,
right?
And I sucked at school.
So growing up, did you guys have a culture of summer jobs as well? For and I come at it from this context is, at least when I grew up, I'm not sure if there was nothing like summer jobs, right? It's you have holidays and you have school. You don't do anything in between. Maybe you play games, you go beat the neighbor, and then you come back and you go. So summer jobs, was that something that was very big?
I didn't do summer jobs that I can remember, but I think people, if I remember correctly, did.
Yeah.
But I remember more winter jobs. I'd run around shoveling driveways and stuff.
Was there good money in it?
I mean, as a kid, it was something, because my parents weren't just handing me money.
Right.
But in the summer, and even when I was supposed to be at school, I was really just not interested, and I wanted to be on the computer playing games. And
fair enough.
Yeah.
And so within university, did you?
I never went to university.
You never university?
No, I got forcefully removed from high school.
So
and
all of you guys are saying you want to fucking do masters.
Yeah.
He's one of the most successful men I know. He never even looked at university. Okay, so then okay, I'm trying to paint the picture of how Kyle ended up from the States. I know there was a huge stint that went across the world before coming down to Uganda.
Yeah.
So when did you want to leave the States? And it's framed from this. Whenever I meet you, if with AfPIF, what happens is every year we're in a different country, right?
Right.
You always have something planned after. You're always exploring. You're always out and about.
Yeah.
You're not just content with sitting in a place. Most of us are like, let's get there, let's get done, let's get the fuck back home.
Right.
You're not like that.
Well, I want to hang out. I want to see the place. And over the years of going to these internet conferences, you develop relationships with people. And we've got a group of friends now. And before or after, we like to go on some kind of adventure. And
right. But that stemmed out from an early age, the want to explore, right? Just to go beyond the confinement.
Yeah. So my inspiration for traveling, I think, originally came from my father, because he did a lot of travel for his work. Okay. And he was traveling to, places that were unusual, like China, Venezuela, whatever. He did his fair share of Europe and whatever else in the Western regions. But so he would always travel for work, and I was very young, and he'd come back with these amazing pictures and like gifts and handmade balsa wood kites from China or whatever, and I'm like, I want to go, and I'm like a little kid. He can't, because it's a business trip, right? So I was constantly on the receiving end of that kind of, it was so exciting. I wanted to do it. And so when I finally had my own means, one of the first places I ever went to was China, kind of a little bit following in his footsteps in the sense that I always wanted to go and couldn't. I don't think that was the first place I ever traveled to. I think one of the first international travels I did was to France with my mother.
Right. But this was solo to China.
Yeah. Well, so my parents really encouraged me to not do it solo, so I went with a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And so we ended up in a lot of good adventures. But then I subsequently went back again to China and saw more of Asia.
And how was China for you then?
China was amazing. China was mind-blowing. China is probably most responsible for inspiring me to want to see more of the world and really opening my eyes to the kind of like intellectual, cultural, geographic diversity that's out there. So after spending initially just like a month or a month and a half in China, I like had to go see more. Like, my God, the world's like a huge place that's beyond my comprehension. And I have to go.
And did you go from where did you go in China? Did you start off in Hong Kong?
I can't. This is an old memory now, but I believe I started in Hong Kong and then went up to Guilin and then went up to Chongqing, Chengdu.
Backpacking.
And then, kind of, yeah, essentially. But just to complete that arc, I went from Hong Kong, Guilin, Chongqing, Chengdu, and then I went out west into Kanding, in the sort of like where Tibet and China start to merge, and then jumped east over to like Xi'an and Beijing, and then Shanghai, and then out. So that was all very quick within like a month and a half, or 2 months or something. But I didn't really plan it well. Like, I mean, it ended up really well, but I didn't know at the time that like Lonely Planet guidebooks existed or whatever. So I had planned it by just getting a big map of China and like putting pins in it.
When was this? What year?
And then figured out how to get to those places. That must have been like 2005 or 6.
There was no Google Maps at the time, was there?
I don't remember, but it didn't come into my planning process either due to negligence or...
And was there a culture shock? Like, being there, was it just vastly different from what you were used to?
I don't know if I experienced it in the way of culture shock. I think I was just in constant awe.
You're right.
Of like soaking in tons of information and then trying to navigate this environment where few people speak English because they don't need to. And so mispronouncing the name of a destination and ending up 10 hours in the wrong direction on a bus. Having to sleep overnight in a ghost city.
Oh, man. Ghost city meaning it's empty.
Yeah, it was a massive planned city where they had built like residential and commercial districts and everything.
And there was no one there.
And there was pretty much no one there.
Dude, so where did you end up staying? Just like one of the apartments?
Yeah, the people that were there that were kind of working in this city were kind enough to kind of like help me find places that I could stay and then got me on a bus to where I should have been going the next day. The hospitality was great, right?
Okay.
Like it's one of the nice things
thing.
I encountered. Yeah.
There's something you told me, and again, I'm not sure if we should put this in. We can, but you ended up on television in China.
Yeah. I was a national television celebrity in China for a brief amount of time.
How the fuck did that happen?
It was very random. It was when I had gone back to China the next time.
Okay.
And I went back to a place that I had been before, and there was this really prominent bar that I guess the first time I was there was a little intimidating, and I just didn't go to it or whatever. And the second time I was back there by myself after a sort of long motorbike tour of Southeast Asia.
And we'll get to that, but I just this particular.
And I ended up back in this place because I was familiar with it, and I knew the owner of a hotel, and I lived on his rooftop. And so I went back there to set that up. And I had a girlfriend that I had met in Cambodia who was going to meet me there. She had to take a side trip, and then she was going to meet me in China. So I took my motorbike, and I ended up back in China in this place. And as I was going through the town, I passed this prominent bar that I had skipped the first time I was in the area when I was in China previously. So I said, fuck it, like, let me go in. And in that bar, I met some people who had just been drafted for a dragon boat race.
That's the... Is it like with the multiple people and
it's a long slender boat with like 30 people on it, and there's a guy banging a drum, and you're like, like it's grueling. It's crazy physical exercise activity, right? Competitive, whatever. And so they were like, we've just been recruited for this thing. They're looking for Americans. They haven't been able to find any. Like, go talk to the television company. And so when I went and talked to him, I had a few interviews and a contract signing, and I was Captain America of an American dragon boat racing team. But I was the only American on the team.
Dude.
Then they put us on national and international television for like the next month or two.
That's
and
insane.
Followed us around every single night of the week. We were on the 4-way jumbotrons across the whole fucking country. I had crowds of like people following me around begging for my autograph. Like,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
But you had no intention.
American,
the funny thing is, it's like you've watched the Jim Carrey movie Yes Man.
Yeah, it's just a fucking rabbit hole, right? Just like, okay. So by the time my girlfriend comes back and meets me in China like we had planned, because she took that side trip from the motorbike thing, she was going to meet me in China. I'm like a national television celebrity, right?
Just by saying yes.
I got crowds of girls following me around begging for my autograph, like. She's like, what the fuck?
What's going on over here?
Yeah. She had a wild ride with me too, because she got kind of held hostage on the Cambodian border because of like how I was moving through the region. Yeah.
Can we talk about that? Actually, why don't we revisit that, right? Or we could. You want that train of thought? I don't want to stop it, man.
Well, maybe we'll come back to it. But
we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
So you get done with China.
Yeah.
Right? What's next for you? This is the first solo travel.
So now I've got my girlfriend, who I met in Cambodia. You know, we lived in China for a while.
Oh, so after the initial trip in China, you went to Cambodia.
Well, so I had that first trip in China with my friend, and then I went back to the United States, and I was like working and doing a few more things. But my mind was blown. I had to go back, so I planned a year in Asia.
A year in Asia.
Yeah, I didn't really have a plan, and I initially went with a girlfriend who, like, our relationship wasn't doing so well, and I guess like people who think they can fix it with a baby, I thought it would be a good idea to go with her on a year-long trip in fucking Asia, and that blew up real fast.
Yeah.
She. Back then, and maybe still today, the Americans are still prescribing Lariam or mefloquine for anti-malaria, and like it's got really psychoactive effects.
Really?
I was hearing like voices in my head before I would fall asleep. I would obviously have really crazy dreams because that's one of the most common symptoms. You get really vivid dreams. But she really succumbed to the psychoactive effects of the drug and started becoming a danger to herself and threatening to disappear and not tell her family or her friends where she was going, and like it was a problem. And subsequently, after this whole episode, I had talked to many people. Some people had been hospitalized for paranoia. Like, it's a crazy drug. It should not be prescribed for.
Is it still out there? Is it still prescribed?
Maybe. I haven't taken malaria drugs in a very long time, right? But like,
you're immune to it now.
Yeah, not quite. I almost fucking died from malaria recently.
Really?
Well, about a year ago. Yeah, but in any case, so she had to be like coaxed out of the country.
Yeah.
So that was a whole story, but we got her out of there, and I ended up in Burma, partially fleeing a situation that escalated from that whole situation. It was a lot.
What did I tell you, Kyle? You should write a freaking book, right? Okay, so you started initially in Thailand.
Yeah, and then that whole relationship, like that, obviously, like we got her home. It was a whole thing. And then so I went back to Burma.
And were you motorbiking?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. And I didn't have a plan, right? And so in Burma, Myanmar.
How's the place, by the way?
Awesome. One of my favorite countries ever. Super interesting. Unfortunately, it was really fucked up when I was there. They had a crazy military dictatorship that was just ready to fucking kill people at any time. But it was fascinating because the government was isolationist. They were sanctioned off by the rest of the world. There was no Toyota, Coca-Cola, Samsung. It hadn't been polluted by Western culture in Hollywood or anything. And so it was like a really raw cultural experience that hadn't been diluted in the same way that a lot of others had, either from capitalism or Western capitalism or whatever, right? And people were amazing. The culture was just fascinating. It was really, really one of the nicest places that I've ever been to.
Awesome.
And so, but in Burma, I rented a motorbike from a guy and just started riding around a bit, right? And I went to a lot of different places up in the mountains in Shan State, and
like, what was your agenda at that time? Because
I didn't have one.
You just want to see the place.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you taking pictures?
I took a lot of pictures.
Right.
Cameras weren't that sophisticated, but I have a lot of pictures.
Dude.
And
if you could share some with the ones you can, we could just put.
I'll take a look.
Yeah, every time, like, if you're on national television, we'll put them up over here.
I'll take a look, but then I wasn't like. I gave the bike back, and then I started traveling around on whatever public transport was available and toured the rest of the country, and then went back to Thailand, bounced up to Chiang Mai, and then hopped across the border. And then I ended up in a city in northern Laos. And at that point, I'm thinking, like, all right, like, I don't want to move around on buses like cattle.
Yeah.
So I walked around the town and I found a motorbike that looked like it could do the job. And I found the owner and I gave him cash and he gave me the keys. And then I just started riding for 11 months.
Do you remember how many cc it was?
It's 125. It was great. It was a tiny little bike. I didn't want a big bike. And I wasn't thinking that well ahead. But in retrospect, it turned out really well because, with a 125cc little bike, you can control it instead of it controlling you with the weight.
Yeah.
I can load it onto a bamboo raft across the river when there's, some jungle river and only like a handful of people live in there. I can load it onto the back of a pickup truck with like 2 guys.
Correct.
When I break down on the side of the road, I can go through a jungle.
Thing, yeah.
Because it's light and I can control it underneath me. It was really, really a good bike.
Okay.
It's like it was a Honda Sonic or something. But the key was that I needed parts that were readily available. I needed to make sure that whatever I got was common because it was
correct.
Going to, break a lot. And I was going for 11 months through the
Smart
region,
move, man. And you rode it for 11 months.
Approximately, yeah. And so I spent a lot of time in each country along the way figuring out how to move because now I've got a bike that I don't own. And how do I cross borders?
Right.
And so
you have to figure out ways.
Yeah. So I spent a lot of time, for example, in southern Laos trying to figure out how I'm going to get this fucking thing across the border.
And so then where did you end up going next?
To Cambodia, right across that border through the jungle. And then I ended up in Cambodia. And then that's where I met my next girlfriend. And then she was on the back of my bike. And getting out of Cambodia was tricky because I didn't legally enter the country. And so they like held her as collateral while I went over to the Vietnamese side to figure out if they'd let me bring my like bike through and like.
We should imagine.
I don't know how much I want to talk about all this.
Yeah, that's fine. We can skip over it. But imagine a young Matt Damon lookalike and a movie based on Kyle's life. Don't you think that would work? Seriously.
So this girlfriend, by the way, is how I ended up in Uganda. So this girlfriend I met in Cambodia, she's on the back of my bike. We ride around for a while. She takes off to go meet with her family, and she's going to meet me in China. She comes back. I'm a national television celebrity in China. We live in China for a while. We have
okay. So that's while you're in China waiting, and she's dealing with all that stuff.
Yeah, she comes back to meet me in China. We rendezvous in China, and now I'm on the TVs everywhere. And And then we lived in China for a while, went around the country. I showed her some of the places I had been to.
Were you still on the bike?
No, actually, so by the time I got to China, the Chinese finally confiscated my bike.
Damn.
So I slept on a Chinese military base. I don't think this is possible anymore, but when I showed up at the Chinese border, they were like, I couldn't get through that border. I had gotten through a lot of borders by then with this bike using a lot of different tactics. But the Chinese, like...
They were like very strict.
It was like bigger and there was more infrastructure. I hit kind of a wall.
Right.
And I was also just not in the mood at that point after, however many months to do anything about it. So I gave him the bike and I had nowhere to go and I had run out of cash at that point and I was hoping that I could get to the nearest town with an ATM or something.
Which is my question. Yeah, at that time, like, what were you doing for cash? Because ATMs were not really readily available.
They were common enough, but they were hard to find. And so I would take lots of money out at a time and then try to get to the next place where I could do that. My hope was as I had run out heading towards the Vietnamese-Chinese border that I would just somehow get through and get to a nearest town with an ATM. But that didn't happen, and the Chinese got my bike, and I slept they put me up on their military base, hospitality, like I'm saying, I woke up and they were doing drills in the courtyard. And
Jesus.
I think the base was dedicated to, border stuff. I don't think they were doing anything too serious there, but still, I can't see an American sleeping on a Chinese military base these days.
He's looking at you in bewilderment because a lot of the guests that he's had are very vanilla. Right. Yeah, we went to school. There's a whole lot more coming.
So, so they gave me cash in the morning to get me on a train.
They literally gave you cash?
Yeah, they let me sleep on their fucking base and they gave me cash so that I could get to the nearest town where they had an ATM. I found a bank machine somewhere and... it was hours away. And then I was able to get money and move on. And I ended up, back in that town where I went to that bar, became the national television celebrity. And then my girlfriend came and met me. And then we lived in China for a while, went around and traveled. And then she went off. She was doing work internationally for the development agencies and stuff. I went back to the United States to sort of do some more consulting work and whatever and spend time with my family. And we had a long-distance relationship for a while. We'd visit each other in different places. Sometimes she'd come to the U.S. We'd meet somewhere maybe in Europe and halfway. Right. And she ended up getting a job in Uganda. Working for the Wildlife Authority, and then found me a job after some months being there so that we could combine lives. And then 2 weeks before I went to Uganda, we broke up, but I went anyway. I was just fuck it.
And what year was this in Uganda?
I think I originally got to Uganda in 2008.
And what was the first job? What were you doing over there?
I was head of IT for a large healthcare organization there, a private healthcare organization.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, because obviously it's been 10 plus years, 20 plus, 2008 and we're in 2026, that's about 18 years?
Something like that.
So Uganda clearly captured you. Was it the coffee? What was it?
I think it was because they didn't throw me in jail.
So you land in Uganda. This is your first African country you've been to.
Yeah. I'd never been to Africa before.
What's your experience like?
It was awesome. It was overwhelming. It was exciting. It was like, I don't know.
Just sensory overload.
I didn't really know what to expect. I think the only thing that I did expect was that it would be drier.
Okay.
Turns out Uganda's a jungle.
Yeah, I mean, it rains a lot.
Except for, right? We've cut down a lot of the jungle.
But excellent coffee.
Yeah, good coffee.
And it's like, it's mountain regions, right? You'd say that.
Well, Western Uganda has the Rwenzori Mountains. There's some volcanic activity. Right. There's some mountains. But Kampala is hilly.
Hilly, yeah. Hilly is the word, exactly.
Yeah.
So you land in Uganda, you get this job. What happens next? How long do you stay there?
I was with that organization for a while, on and off.
Okay, so then how did Uganda Internet, the exchange you set up, how did that come about?
Well, so I didn't set up the exchange. I sort of inherited the exchange. So the Internet Exchange in Uganda was set up in 2001. Charles Masisi, Badru Ntege. There's another guy who's on the company's house documents named Hope, but I had never met him, and I don't know if he was ever very active. In collaboration with the very beginning of the UCC, the Uganda Communications Commission, there was a guy named Haj Semakula who was active and helped get the internet community together to set this up in 2001. We're one of the oldest internet exchanges in Africa, and perhaps the world.
Yeah, long ago, man.
Yeah. So, but by 2008, it was languishing. The internet in East Africa, as you know, didn't become subsea fiber optic until around 2009-10.
Post-CCOM, right? Yeah.
Probably 2010.
Yeah.
Even though the cable was there in 2009, it didn't really light up, I don't think, until 2010.
There's not much fiber as well terrestrially.
There was not a lot of terrestrial fiber, right? So that's to say that Uganda was on satellite internet. East Africa was the last region in the world connected to the internet by satellite outside of Antarctica.
Wow.
Region, not last country. There's still, I think,
region.
Yeah, but the last region on Earth still connected by satellite. So by 2008, internet's still $5,000 a megabit. Not a lot of people are using it. This really good forward-thinking idea about the internet exchange set up in 2001 was working. Every bit counts, but there wasn't a lot of activity around it because internet usage was suppressed by the fact that it was so expensive and we're connected by satellite and whatever. And so there was also a lot of political infighting within the community. I don't remember all the details of how that drama originated, but people weren't talking to each other and nobody was taking care of the internet exchange. And the healthcare organization that I work for spanned the country. And we had clinics around the country. We had different, buildings here and there, and there was no one network that could reach them all, and so they were all on a bunch of different networks. Right. And so we needed the internet exchange to function because our electronic medical record systems and other things were hosted at the hospital, and they needed to go cross-network to the other facilities.
This is in 2008. You guys are thinking about that.
Yeah. And so when the internet exchange would fall over, our systems would go down, and it made it difficult for us to do electronic medical records nationally. We were only able to do that like in the hospital and maybe some of the Kampala clinics, but we wanted to expand that stuff, and as we did, the exchange would sometimes go down, and nobody was taking care of it. I call my ISP, and they're like I don't know. We're connected to that. Yes, well, go fucking fix it because
Was that Rogue Telecom at the time?
At the time, we were using DataNet. And so this is before Rogue.
Okay.
And so they would go down and they would fix it, but they don't know really what they're doing. And exchange is a very particular thing. But they would get it working. Nobody was taking care of this thing, and everybody was suffering. And it was a good idea, and we needed it because, if we needed it at the hospital for that, imagine, the rest of the economy needs it, maybe doesn't even know it exists and is just wondering and calling their internet service provider randomly, why is my thing not working? So my friend and I, who was a consultant, he was a consultant at the healthcare organization. We got on real well. We were big into open source software. We're finishing each other's sentences in terminals and stuff. And we're fuck it. What we were already doing was the Uganda Linux user group. We were organizing tech events and stuff. And so well, fine. Well, fuck it. We'll take this on too. We'll just voluntarily go clean up the internet exchange. Nobody else is taking care of it. So let's go down there with a couple of the activist techies and let's rip it apart and put it back together and just start managing it. Because nobody else is. We need this. Other people need this. So let's just do this because we're doing techie stuff anyway.
Did you meet? Was Mark Tinker around at that time?
Mark Tinker was on the scene, but I think he was off in Malaysia somewhere doing work for.
Right. Okay, so this is quite early on then.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So you get there, and the first thing you see is this situation with the internet exchange, right? And when you walk in, is there a bit of resistance to let you help?
No.
Okay.
No, because it was kind of abandoned.
Right.
And people were just happy to have people helping out.
And so what were the technical issues that sort of limited? Was it technical or was it policy? Was it...
There was no such thing as policy at the time. It was really all technical. It was just making sure that the power was on, and when something broke, that somebody went to fix it. Mm-hmm. It was simple stuff. But it was also in a broom closet in a basement, and it was a rat's nest, and it needed to be ripped apart and rewired and cleaned up so that it was easier to maintain and manage.
So you guys started a clean slate then?
Yeah, we went in one night, overnight, Patrick Kukui and others, and we just ripped the whole thing apart and rebuilt it and rewired it. And
right.
Yeah, we did a bunch of stuff. I mean, this is something that I'm talking of a timeline that's a bit longer than one night here, but we just started taking care of it, and we started trying to get the community together.
And what was the traffic at the time? What were you guys throughputing?
A couple megabits.
And now?
We're at 70 gigabits.
Jesus.
That's not the total demand that it could have.
Yeah.
We're limited by a few factors like cache fill for certain CDNs.
Okay. And so you go from managing that the healthcare organization, to now being associated fully with the Uganda Internet Exchange.
Yeah, I was doing both. In fact, I was the Uganda Internet Exchange is a hobby project for most of the timeline.
Right.
That I've been involved in it. Right, okay. We were paying out of our pockets to support this thing, because we, wanted to build the internet. We were techies. We were hosting monthly meetings to promote open source software. Like this is just, there was nobody charging for it. There was no money involved in it because people couldn't agree on who would hold the money. And so up until 2017, there was no money. Nobody was charging for this, right? So we were operating on volunteers and donations.
Wow.
And so, but by 2017, it grew too big to be sustained solely by volunteers and donations, and we had to implement port fees and try to make it sustainable, which it is now.
Okay. And like right now, how many, like who's present on the Internet Exchange? Do you guys have any?
We have like 35 networks connected.
Do you have Meta? Do you have you have Netflix caches and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. And so do you interconnect somehow to Mombasa? Because from a regional perspective, what I see is Mombasa is where most of the edge node sits, and then Nairobi is also another hub. And Uganda, a lot of providers come down, pick the stuff up, and then take it back, right? And then drop it off there. There's no direct edge-based platforms in Uganda, at least not for now.
Well, I mean, you could consider CDNs caches as edge nodes, right? But a lot of networks will stop in Mombasa and then expect the internet service providers to pipe into Mombasa from wherever they are inland and pick up that and peer with them. But some networks will extend themselves inland and peer at the exchanges directly. Okay. So it's a mixture. But as the Internet Exchange, our job is to do local interconnection. And so we don't have any cross-border ambitions. We don't provide...
you just localize traffic. Just keep.
Yeah, we just localize traffic. We have 2 locations. Those 2 locations are interconnected. So if you connect to one side, you can connect to a network on the other side. And we manage the dark fiber between there.
Okay.
But we're not piping traffic across the border.
You're keeping everything localized.
Yeah, we just localize traffic. That's all. So the internet service providers are responsible for getting themselves across borders.
Right. The future next steps for the Internet Exchange, right?
Yeah.
Where do you see that going? Especially when you have people like, for example, NAP Africa, right?
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, NAP Africa is the Internet Exchange in South Africa. I mean, they're like the 7th Internet Exchange in the world. They've grown quite significantly, and everyone's now. And as a result, the data centers have grown, the connectivity, the amount of peering partners. Do you ever see Kenya or Uganda getting to that place? And maybe it's a question, what do we need to do to get to that level where we have hundreds of gigs going through our internet exchanges?
I can definitely see Kenya and other places getting to that level. I think South Africa will probably have an advantage for a long time, and it will probably be maybe larger for a long period of time. But Kenya is doing really well. It's got a competitive ecosystem of internet exchanges. There's not just one internet exchange. Just like in South Africa, there's multiple internet exchange service providers.
Do you think too many dilute it?
It's possible, but as long as that competition is market-based, then they can come and go as the market allows. Right. The problem is when you have governments that try to mandate a new exchange, and then instead of offering their service competitively to the market, they force networks to connect. In markets where that happens, then you can have potential dilution because it's not that the new exchange popped up in response to market demand and a need. It's that it's imposed.
Yeah.
Right. So as long as you do it like Kenya, where you have private operators doing this, then if one comes and there isn't sufficient demand, then it will not succeed and it just won't grow, and maybe it'll go away.
Because now the NAP Africa model is everything is open, everything is free, right?
Well, NAP Africa's model is unique from a lot of other exchanges in that the data center provides it as a value-added service. Right. So they offer it for free because they're funded by the data center, and the data center makes its money from rack space. And so they use NAP Africa as a way to attract business to the data center, which makes a lot of sense. I think it's a great model.
It's a great model,
right? But in contrast, a lot of other setups are that you have a data center entity and then a separate exchange entity that's not funded by the data center. Inside the data center facility. You might have multiple exchanges inside the same data center, but they're not owned or operated by the data center or funded by the data center. So that's the key difference, and that's why NAP Africa, the NAP Africa Internet Exchange can be offered largely for free is because the data center is subsidized by the data center revenue, right? Which
makes sense then. Which it's actually also very appealing.
It's a really nice model. Now, that might not be the most attractive for a competing IXP that wants to come in because they might sense favoritism or whatever, but it works.
If you don't mind me asking you, are you aware about the data center industry in Uganda? Like, has it grown significantly?
Generally, yeah. I mean, we're customers of Raxio, for example. So the only real carrier-neutral data center that we have in Uganda is Raxio. Mm-hmm. And it's a good data center.
Right.
It's just that it's taking longer to fill up than I think the people who built it anticipated. And I think that's not unique to Uganda. I think data center operators have found that across the region.
Yeah.
So, but that's also true in Uganda. And so I think it will be successful, but I think it will be successful over a longer period of time than they initially anticipated.
I mean, for the longest time, the company I work for, the data centers we filled up one data center out of four data centers, basically. Yeah. And very lucky, but also it was the first neutral data center. But there's a lot of data center players that came after the fact. And I'm struggling to see how many banks can fill up those data centers, how many edge platforms people are saying. There's also an element of, I'm thinking like people just create a sexy pipeline, right? And go to a VC and say, hey, look, we can build a neutral data center and fill it up. But when I look at the big boys, the hyperscalers, whatever's happening in South Africa, typically we follow that, right? It happens in South Africa. You see an edge node, you see a compute node.
Yeah.
Nigeria is always the next step because Nigeria is just a larger population, more volume. Kenya is always on the receiving end after that.
Yeah.
But it sort of hasn't come to fruition. All these large hyperscale builds, we're not seeing them. We're not seeing these multi-megawatt deployments.
Yeah, but that takes time. I mean, you've got to have demand to justify a hyperscale. I mean, not coming to fruition is a funny thing to say for a market that has like multiple carrier-neutral data centers.
Yeah, but how many of them are full? How many of them?
EADC is probably full, yeah?
EADC is obviously there because it's been the longest, right? It's been there since 2000.
Fine, but that's a full one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have are there any in iColo's portfolio that are like more than 50%?
Yeah.
So...
it's taken time. It's taken 10 years.
Okay,
plus, right?
But it's happening.
Right.
You can't go from like zero to hyperscale.
So, and that's what I'm saying is the point I'm getting to is that a lot of data centers are popping up. And if Kenya is considered that region which will receive after Nigeria, it's definitely a powerhouse, right? But in Uganda, if you have multiple internet exchanging setting up, if you have in Rwanda people looking at setting up data centers, and normally the big players, they'll set up one regional edge platform to service everyone, right? So the Metas, the Googles, the Akamais, and everyone feeds off from there. So the investments that I'm seeing now going towards these regional data centers, sometimes I think it doesn't make sense yet. It'll come. It'll definitely come. It'll definitely be a time in the future where there'll be AI clusters everywhere. But how far along is that future? Do you get what I mean? And to answer your question, like Raxio, right? I mean, they're doing quite well, but did they anticipate a demand that was larger?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think they anticipated a demand that was larger, and they also probably anticipated that it would be easier to onboard the demand that existed for real. It just takes time to get customers to migrate into your facility,
right?
Because of internal reasons in your customers' network architecture and
also
business
education as well. I'm assuming
education and market awareness and whatever. So, but that's okay. But I think these things will happen. It'll just take time. Kenya is advantaged because it's closest to the beach. It services all the downstream markets in Uganda, South Sudan, Eastern DRC, Rwanda, even a bit of Tanzania.
Yeah.
Right. Tanzania is harder to deal with. So when you need a coastal East Africa option, Kenya's where you go.
Yeah.
But there's also demand for co-location inland, but that co-location can't compete with the sort of regional gateway demand in Kenya. And so what you're looking at, if you go all the way down to the edge in Rwanda, is smaller data centers that capitalize on government or local banking.
Correct, yeah.
Because they have regulations that say certain stuff has to be in country and whatever. You're not necessarily going to get Meta going in and deploying their like regional POP in Kigali.
Yeah.
They'll do that in Nairobi or Mombasa. But over time,
they'll definitely
as demand grows, because there are large populations in our region, they might extend their networks further inland. It's a matter of time. But what can accelerate that is governments doing sensible things to facilitate investment and nurture demand in their markets. and not do unsensible things that hinder that growth. Right. So as an inland country, you have to be very careful about the interventions you make in the market so that you don't make yourself less attractive and delay that arrival, because you need that. You need the data centers, and you need the digital ecosystem to come if you want to have any sort of sovereignty in the internet ecosystem.
Correct. It's just steps we have to take. Within the internet exchange sphere, is there any country you look at and you're like, they would definitely benefit from an internet exchange? Like, it would do well over there.
Do well? I'm not sure. I mean, when you judge the merits of an internet exchange, I'm not sure the first thing I consider is...
So maybe let me frame it this way. It would open up the market to different providers, accessibility to connectivity for mass market, good content, local cache content.
Well, the key to having an internet exchange that works is to have multiple providers to begin with, right? One of the reasons why Uganda's exchange has been successful is that we have a very competitive array of small networks, for example, instead of just a few big large ones. And so when considering which markets would benefit from an internet exchange, you need some of those prerequisites in place. And so if you want to get to the point where you can develop a co-location data center interconnection ecosystem, you have to start first with like competition policy.
Right.
And once you get a competitive enough array of networks, then you can try to localize that traffic and offset the cost. And then when you look at networks that would benefit most from that, you're probably looking at the countries that are most inland, that have to pay the most intermediaries to get to the rest of the world.
Right.
So South Sudan is working to get an internet exchange set up. It takes time. They're far inland. They have to buy their internet through Uganda, and then we have to get it through Kenya. So there's a couple intermediaries there. They're far, latency is high.
Right.
So they can come down and they can peer at the Uganda Internet Exchange or whatever, but still, like, they would do well to have an internet exchange.
What about Ethiopia?
Ethiopia is another case where you don't have enough networks operating to justify an exchange.
Just one or two networks, right?
Well, as far as I know, it's Ethio Telecom and Safaricom now, right?
Safaricom.
So Safaricom's the second network now. I don't know what their like local ISP scene looks like. My knowledge of Ethiopia is a bit limited, but I don't know if there is one. I think it's just Ethio Telecom and Safaricom mostly, and therefore you can do that with a private network interconnect. You don't have room for an internet exchange there. Right? There's only two networks. You need three or more networks to have an internet exchange.
Yeah. And so I think that's one of the conversations at AFRINIC we were having, is that normally you select different regions based on the internet exchange and the peering policies over there. And Ethiopia sort of didn't have that in place. So it's not something, until they fix that.
They have to open up the market if they want to get an internet exchange going, which will accelerate their ambitions to have data centers. I know like Raxio and others are either looking or have built data centers there. And Ethiopia has like 90 million people or something. And so there's definitely demand domestically for co-location. But that's held back by the lack of competition in the network operator space.
So, which is a good segue to AFRINIC and the Internet Society. How did your involvement happen over there? How did you connect with those guys?
Well, the Internet Society I've been working with for a long time. Because
even before you got to Uganda?
No. I first encountered them in Uganda when I got involved in the Internet Exchange. Probably going to AFNOG.
AFNOG, that's...
the African Network Operators Group. It was an event that would, like AfPIF, it would change countries every year, and it was about training network engineers to build capacity in the region.
Is it open for anyone to join?
I believe so.
Okay.
I don't know what the current status of it is. Yeah. I went to AfPIF back in like 2009.
Okay.
Or sorry, AFNOG in 2009. And that's where I learned how like BGP works. Because when I got involved in the Internet Exchange and started taking care of it, I didn't know how it worked. We didn't actually know about BGP or anything. We were just sort of putting our time and effort in. And so somebody suggested that I go to AFNOG.
And they taught you everything.
And we got a crash course in scalable network infrastructure.
In fact, that's a very good point. I think AFNOG still has events, right?
Yeah, I think it still operates. Yeah.
So for guys, because a lot of people watch this, they want to understand about networking and IT, and I think that's a good place to start.
AFNOG is a good place to go, yeah. So I went there 2 years in a row, got back-to-back training in BGP and building scalable networks and learning how all that stuff works. And that immensely benefited me at the Internet Exchange. Okay. And through AFNOG, I think I probably started encountering the Internet Society. And then they, I think, were in the background with the Uganda Internet Exchange point to some degree before me. But then when we started getting ourselves organized, I think they re-engaged with us, and I started kind of collaborating with them on the Internet Exchange a bit.
Right.
I think they provided us some grant funding for power infrastructure and a few other things, and facilitated some donations from NSRC for new switching infrastructure that we suitcased in from Kenya.
Okay. And so the Internet Society, maybe you could just describe it for the people that don't know what it does actually.
Well, so the Internet Society,
it's an Internet Society.
I don't want to get this wrong because I love them and I work with them a lot. But they're like
governing policies.
They're an organization that was funded by the proceeds from the .org domain. So you had .com, .net, .org, and I think a lot of the money from the .org was put into an organization called the Internet Society, whose job was to then go and promote internet ecosystem development around the world.
Right.
And they're a great nonprofit. They have really done maybe more than anyone else to develop the internet around the world in really good, neutral ways. And they have supported tons of the projects that I've been involved in over the years, including the Africa Peering and Interconnection Forum, which is our annual event.
AfPIF.
And then the African IXP Association, which hosts the AfPIF Forum, the Internet Exchange itself, and lots of other Internet Exchange projects around the region. And they collaborate with the likes of Meta and others who provide them funding for specific grant projects, like to do Internet Exchange development and upgrades.
So our good friend Michuki Mwangi is part of them.
Exactly. Yeah. So Michuki started life here in Kenya. He helped with the Kenya Internet Exchange, etc., and then moved over to the Internet
Does he have
Society.
a code name called Silver Fox?
I haven't heard that.
I've heard it like
Silver Fox.
Silver Fox. Yeah.
I'll ask him about that.
Okay, so you become part of the
Maybe
Internet
that's his
Society.
gamer tag.
Yeah, maybe it is. You never know.
Secretly, like
Call of Duty,
Call of Duty, like killing 14-year-olds,
teabagging them.
Yeah.
So you
Sorry,
become.
Mzee.
By the way, Michuki has to come on the podcast as well. We've been planning
I think
it.
it would be great to talk
It would
to.
be awesome.
Yeah.
Right. So you've integrated with them. They've helped you with AfPIF. Maybe let's talk about AfPIF a bit more, because that's where we first met. For those that don't know, it's the peering forum that takes place.
Yeah.
And everyone's invited.
It's an annual conference.
Right.
It's been going on for a long time. I should know this because I'm like responsible for running the conference.
Quite long. I think the first one was in Tanzania, right?
Yeah, something like that. It was 2009, 10. And Michuki was involved in setting that up. And it was to get people together to talk about network interconnection and developing the network interconnection ecosystem in Africa. This is before data centers were on people's minds because we hadn't the prerequisites. The demand for co-location wasn't there yet. A lot of us were still connected by satellite. So the key was to get everybody in the room and help set up internet exchanges and get local traffic local in Africa, and help us save money and improve latency and improve reliability of the internet in Africa. And then over time, that helped generate demand that led to the data center.
Exactly.
Market,
I think when Ranjit initially wanted to get a better understanding of the ecosystem, that's one of the first events you went to, and I think you guys held it in Mozambique.
It is definitely, and of course I'm like biased because we run the conference, but it is the best place to get a real, true, honest picture of what's going on in the African internet ecosystem and where it's going and the challenges and opportunities that are there.
And that's sort of, I mean, coming from a sales perspective, it's not a sales conference.
It's not a sales conference. It's not AfricaCom. It's not whatever. Those are great conferences too for
sales related stuff.
For sales related stuff. But if you want to talk to like the top engineers, or you want
correct,
you want to understand what the latest is on the cable going through Congo, or like
it gives you
you want to get real market intel. True. You go talk to the people who are actually doing it.
And it gave us a very good roadmap of where everything is going.
Yeah.
Where future cables are building, where do you want to build data centers?
If you're going to invest in the region, you need to be going and talking to the people who are doing it, not the people who are selling it to you at the top.
So what's your involvement right now with AFPIF? Because I know on Mondays you're quite busy.
Yeah. So to summarize, the Africa Peering and Interconnection Forum, as we lovingly call AFPIF, is an annual conference that's been hosted every year since 2009, 2010, whatever it was. We change countries every year. Last year we were in Lagos, the year before Kinshasa, this year we're in Kigali. We move around, and it's a 3 to 4 day event that covers the sort of internet infrastructure landscape in Africa. And increasingly that involves data centers and co-location. And my involvement is that I am the executive director of the African IXP Association, which hosts it. And so we've got a big team. both at the African IXP Association and at AfPIF. We've got a program committee with like 15 or 20 people on it now. And maybe not 20, like 15 people. And we've got the African IXP Association has a team of comms and logistics and everything else. And we work with partners. Like in Rwanda, we're going to be working with RICTA, which runs the Rhinex Internet Exchange there. So every time we go into a market, we work with their local internet exchange or a local partner that can, facilitate the event for us on the ground. And we have a good what we call PCO, professional conference organizer, that helps us out too. So it's a big operation.
I mean, it is.
And lots of sponsors. We love our sponsors. Yeah. If we could segue to an ad for our sponsors right now, that would be awesome. But
it's one of the first places where I felt there was genuine community.
Yeah.
It's
not superficial.
It's non-commercial.
Yeah.
It's everyone's there, everyone's interacting, and as the years have gone by, and
I've developed a lot of real friendships through AfPIF.
And that's what I was going to say, is the people that, so within the circle, we could just shout them out, like Patrick, for example, from Telegeography.
Yeah,
right?
Patrick from Telegeography is fucking awesome.
He's
I
so
love that guy.
good.
Yeah,
Wes Anderson movies, fucking, he's completely obsessed with them. But he was one person who was so open to, yes, no problem. What information do you need?
Yeah.
And Michuki as well.
Michuki, yep.
Mark. I think Mark is involved in
Tinka,
yeah.
Mark yeah. He's there. He's around. Yeah, he missed us for a couple of years, but he's back. And he's on the DJ decks. He's our in-house DJ, along with Rene from Flex Optics.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is, it's for those that really want to learn about what's going on. It's a good place with good people, good vibes, and there's just a lot of positivity around it. I've never seen anything negative. You guys know how to fucking run a conference, man.
We try. Dude, it's not always easy.
I know, man, but for us on like sitting on the outside, it's smooth sailing. I've never had.
That's what I try to remind people when they're inside. Our organizing team, they're stressed out. Whatever. I've done lots of events, especially going back to the Uganda Linux user group events and everything. And as an organizer, you're in it,
dude. You guys
and you're thinking, you see all the problems and whatever, but the guests, they don't notice half of the stuff that you notice. Like, it's good that you have that attention to detail and that anxiety, because that's what leads to the delivery of a good event. But in reality, like, you're seeing things that other people don't. And it comes across really well. I mean, I've been a guest at AFPIF as much as I've been an organizer, and it is a great conference. We try to up our game every year. We run into crazy logistical challenges.
I can imagine, just planning that whole thing.
But also, you've got hundreds of people coming in, for example, that need
from different
visas.
Countries.
Yeah.
Visas.
Right,
dude.
yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. It's so automated. You guys are like the tier 1 operators when it comes to conferences, because
thank you. It's really great to hear that from an external perspective. I believe that internally. I think we do a really good job, but it always helps to hear that from an objective point of view.
And the last year, maybe we can post up a picture of Kyle in a suit. I've never seen him in a suit.
Yeah, I unfortunately have to put on a suit like once at the conference every time I get up, because I gotta speak at the podium and open the conference. It's not my natural.
But trust me, you pulled off a suit.
Thank you. I got that suit in Kinshasa. Nico from Kinix. That's a Congolese suit.
Byron, so we'll shout them out. We'll put the stuff over here, yeah? Kyle, I had a question how long have we been going on for? Okay, an hour has passed, by the way.
Well, that's great.
When we were just catching up outside, there was the issues with AFRINIC.
Oh, yeah.
Is that something we can talk about? Because I wanted to get a better understanding of what's going on just from an outside perspective.
Well,
I haven't paid attention to it.
Yeah.
And just to get some intricacies into what's going on. What exactly happened?
Well, so the accusation is that this guy who largely operates out of China, I guess, came in and got a bunch of African IP space and started using it out of region.
So maybe we could talk to people about what IPs are.
So IP addresses.
Yeah, IP addresses.
So computers on the internet, systems on the internet need a unique address. It's like the postal system. If you and I had the exact same mailing address, the mail wouldn't know how to route the message.
Correct.
So we have to have unique addresses. We've got different zip codes. We live in different countries, whatever. Even if we were in the same country, we have different street addresses.
Yeah.
Every device on the internet needs a unique address. Now, that's a generalization, because over time, when we started running out of the old addresses, we came up with hacks to hide some, multiple addresses behind one and whatever. But generally, every device needs its own address. And as the old addressing system was designed in an era where we didn't anticipate your toaster would need an IP address. We quickly started to run out as mobile devices and other, things started proliferating, and the old addressing system wasn't designed to accommodate that many unique addresses, that many devices. So as we started running out, we needed to come up with a new addressing system, which we call IPv6. The old one is IPv4. So as IPv6 is being rolled out, we're also dealing with how to manage what's left of IPv4. And at some point, that meant dividing up what was left into the different regions so that each region could be guaranteed to have enough address space to continue building out things like core internet infrastructure and internet exchanges and setting up internet service provider networks and whatever. So Africa, being late to the game, was the custodian of a large amount of free IP address space, whereas Europe, America, Asia ran out of the final allocations they were given quite quickly because of the rate of development in their markets. So if you needed IPv4 address space, you had to come to Africa to get some African address space because we were all that's left until people roll over to the new system. So there's a guy operating, I think, like I said, out of China who had a bunch of African IP space that he was using out of region to supply networks and customers
outside the region,
outside of Africa, right? So taking African resources and using them outside of Africa in Asia and other places. And then somewhere along the way, AFRINIC implemented a policy that most or all of your address space had to be used in region because we didn't want people strip mining IP resources, internet resources like they do cobalt in the Congo.
Yeah.
And so that became a contentious issue because this guy operating out of China had an enormous amount of African IP address space that he was using out of region, and AFRINIC tried to claim it back based on this policy of requiring in-region utilization.
Right.
And he defended himself with aggressive lawfare, attacking the organization, its directors, and other associates in a lot of different ways, using the legal system and his vast amount of financial resources to overwhelm the organization and cripple it. One of the key tactics was to basically nullify the board so that the company couldn't operate and make decisions. And because this organization, AFRINIC, isn't like a very publicly visible organization, it took a while to get the attention of governments to the potential consequences of how this is going to affect economic development in the region. Now, eventually that occurred. We finally got the Mauritian government to wake up and say, like, hey, by the way, you're the custodian of this company that's being nuked legally, and that's going to cause mayhem around the region. And so they took a special interest finally after lots of drama and allowed us to reconstitute the board and get the company set up again with a new board of directors. Awesome. And that's where it is now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so at least it's heading towards a positive
direction. Now the issue of whether or not he gets to hold on to his IP address space is still unresolved, but at least the board is in place now to start to figure that out and to start to unwind, the dozens of legal cases that are still
they have to deal with
that they have to deal with.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy. That's actually a very good insight for me and trying to understand everything that's going on there. I wanted to pivot away now into looking at Kyle and the future and what's going on now. What does Kyle's next 5 to 10 years look like?
Well, Kyle's immediate future involves putting a lot of energy into the African IXP Association. Yeah. I've still got the Uganda Internet Exchange point that we're running, but as a utility focused on local interconnection, our biggest headache is just bureaucracy,
right?
And just existing as a business in Uganda, which is not fun or easy. And so it's about making the African IXP Association as financially independent as we can, and making it sustainable.
Right.
So the Internet Society has been sort of bankrolling the African Peering and Interconnection Forum for a long time, and also taking lead on its logistics and other operations, because the African IXP Association, which is like the African Internet Industry Association, didn't really formalize until a couple of years ago.
Right.
And so the Internet Society worked with Machuki and others in the local community to organize this thing. So there was a lot of voluntary community activity supported by the Internet Society's money and logistical capacity to make this thing happen. And they didn't want to be running Africa's like internet conference forever. And so we got ourselves together as a community, as the African IXP Association, and formalized ourselves, registered a legal entity, and then started working with the Internet Society to migrate the African Peering and Interconnection Forum over to the African IXP Association so that it could be held by the African internet industry, the local community, if you will. And so we're in the middle of that transition. The Internet Society is continuously there, right? This is they're not just going to like drop this on the African internet industry and let it implode. They've spent a lot of time and effort like building this up, and so they're very supportive, whether it's with their expertise or their financial resources or whatever, in order to have a multi-year plan to do this transition, which we're in the middle of. My focus is going to be to make sure that transition goes well and that we can come out of this with a financially sustainable association that can recurringly host this conference. And then more than that, I want it to be with our own money. We rely on sponsors every year as well as ISOC money. So ISOC wasn't funding it entirely itself. We have an array of many sponsors. Liquid Telecom's been there for us for years. Meta is there for us. Like lots of other organizations have been there for us. And I wish I could shout them all out now because even with ISOC money, it wouldn't have happened. Icolo's been there. Raxio even.
The way data centers were sort of segmented into AfPIF as a topic, AI, this year, do you think there will be a lot more focus on it? Do you think from a regulation perspective or where we think it's going?
I'm not sure. I think there's going to be increasing focus on it over time. I mean, there's a lot of people that say it's a bubble or whatever. Maybe it isn't. But it's what exists of it that is proven to be useful is going to continue to incorporate itself into our workflows and whatever.
How do you guys use Grok apart from undressing people? Yeah, that's what the AI is doing over here. You got to get serious. But do you guys use AI for editing? No. Emails?
He's reading himself in the footage. He says yes.
What I'm trying to get at is everyone's using AI right
now.
Yeah.
Hopefully what we see is more decentralization of AI. But we have a massive problem right now in that, it's hard to buy a fucking gaming laptop because the prices of RAM and storage are through the fucking roof because the data centers are hoovering up all the resources for what some people may say is a bubble. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I've heard that.
I'm not convinced one way or the other on that. So I'm not arguing that AI is a bubble or whatever. But I'm not arguing that it's not either. I don't know. But what's clear is that demand will continue to grow and that data centers are hoovering up a lot of resources that would be required for a government like Uganda to set up their own GPU clusters that are required for me even to, like they're cutting off NVIDIA GPUs. They're killing entire product lines. The prices are doubling and tripling. I bought a new gaming laptop.
What's the specs on that?
It's an Alienware. It's got a 5090 in it. I bought it just before all the prices. Listen, I did not want to buy a Dell. I don't have any love for that company. In fact, I'd rather buy anything else, but I had to look at the requirements that I had as far as like even where the ports are on the machine, not just the pricing, but and so I ended up having to buy the Alienware instead of like the Asus.
I don't know why I didn't tell you this. Fazar builds gaming PCs for his job. So
I can't do desktops because I have to import them in a suitcase.
Yeah.
Right, so it has to be a desktop replacement, like 18-inch. My last was a System 76, which is a custom. I fucking love it, right? But it's got a 1080 that's a bit long in the tooth now, and I'm finally, So anyway, but the point is that I just bought this thing right before all the prices start increasing. I feel like I was like the last guy hanging from the chopper on the way out of Nam,
with Bad Moon Rising playing in the background.
Because fuck me now, like Steam Decks are sold out. That Valve doesn't know what they're going to...
Steam Decks are sold out?
Yeah, in the United States, I just heard that all the models are sold out, and they're having to delay the launch of their new devices and whatever. Like, fuck. And you know what this means is that if this continues for too long and they don't increase production and bring consumer electronics back online, they're going to be trying to force us into like GeForce Now and like streaming services and more shit into the cloud.
Yeah, fuck that, man.
Fuck that. I want to have my own ability to do LLMs offline. I want to be able to play games on my computer. I want to own something.
Yeah. And that's becoming a big thing is this cloud gaming as well. They're pushing us all into this corner. But by the way, with the connectivity over here, I'm not sure how we're going to do that. Like even Sony has tried from a gaming perspective, the streaming stuff. Fucking horrendous experience, right?
Well, what was it like? Because crucially, it's latency that they really need. So they can service cities, right? Because you need really low latency to make that work.
And I think the problem is Sony. So, for example, Akamai has some gaming stored on it, right? So wherever the networks are.
Okay.
Sony doesn't use them specifically, if I'm not mistaken, not for all games. So there's a particular thing.
Some that work and some don't.
Yeah, so within the PlayStation Plus catalog, some games you can't even load because they're not. The service is not accessible in country in Kenya.
Really?
Yeah, it's bullshit, man. For example,
from Sony's perspective, they don't want to put all their eggs in one basket with a content provider, right? Because then the content provider can squeeze them. I imagine that's some of their calculation. Right. I know a lot of internet companies will use Akamai for this and an in-house for this or whatever. Yeah.
Microsoft changed as well. So, for example,
Microsoft does the software caches now where I can host it.
But I can't buy movies now on game. So what would happen is initially when I go on the Xbox in the Game Pass, there's a library segment, right? So you know how you can buy digital movies?
Yeah.
Dude, I could buy any fucking movie on Microsoft as long as I had an Xbox. And I had a huge catalog.
Yeah.
I go on recently to buy a movie and it says not accessible in your country.
Well,
so I've got a plug over here who's got like a
piracy is a legitimate counter pressure against market inefficiencies like that in my view. So like you know where to go.
Let's hover over it.
But you know who you might be able to blame for that is the content ratings board or whatever in Kenya, right? Like there's cases I think, and I'm not calling out Kenya. I don't know if this is the case, but there's an increasing amount of interest from governments to control what the catalogs are in country.
Right.
Uganda has a really small Netflix catalog, for example, because
the government actually curates what comes in, right?
They can, I think, tell them that you can't have this or whatever.
Right. No wonder.
And I think surely Kenya has the same thing.
Yeah, because initially on the NSFW catalog on Netflix, there was a huge.
Do they actually have that as a category? I don't use Netflix.
I definitely, because all those movies
I'm sailing the high seas.
Byron, weren't you complaining the other day, right?
Is it like it says NSFW and you go in and you get the
so like rated 18, but
okay, all right.
It's been cleaned up,
right?
Because if you look at who was that? There's an actress from the 1990s who was gorgeous, Sharon Stone.
Okay,
there was.
I don't see a ton of movies playing video games.
There was a movie of hers.
I'm looking at Lara Croft, dude.
No, it's like exactly. But even Lara Croft, I'm assuming in Kenya everything has been dumbed down.
She's back to like a few polygons.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a Sharon Stone movie, Basic Instinct. You know that famous scene of her crossing her legs? We can put it up over here.
Oh, I think I heard about a vague memory of this because I think it was controversial at the time as well.
So even right now, and it's quite a popular movie, but I don't think you'll find that here. But in other Netflixes, you will. But I thought it was due to licensing issues.
Well, that may be too. There's a lot of different layers to this.
Right.
There's the... I mean, for a long time, there was also the issue of you can't see this because the advertisers don't have a presence in your market, right? So, like, certain YouTube videos...
Okay.
I don't know about today, but there were cases where you couldn't watch certain videos because the advertisers, certain platforms would just say, like, I can't sell in that market, so I'm not showing this video, which I supported.
So what about the gaming front? What's on the docket? What games are you playing right now?
So I'm getting this new gaming laptop when I go to the States, right? It's going to come back in a suitcase.
You still have the Steam Deck?
Yeah, I still got a Steam Deck, right?
Worth the investment?
Definitely worth the investment. Yeah, especially if you fly a lot. I've even gone to LAN parties with it. I get a fold-out, like, ultra-thin USB screen, and I just put it in a dock, and I've got, like, my screen there. And it plays everything through Proton and emulation now, so I don't have to, like...
Dude.
Because it's running Linux, right? And that's not a barrier anymore. So my new gaming laptop that I bring over, I'm not even going to run Windows. I'm just going straight Linux. I don't play fucking Fortnite. I'm not going to play anything that's going to rape my computer with fucking DRM.
I told you you'd like him.
So I'm going straight Linux on it. I've got lots of storage space. And this thing does ray tracing. And I haven't had ray tracing yet. So I'm going to replay Cyberpunk.
You're in for it.
But you know, honestly, what I spend most of my time on these days is like Quake Live, which is basically Quake 3.
Really? People are still playing that?
Yeah, not that many, but like they're still playing. I'm kind of grudgingly accepted on the European servers because I've got like 170 millisecond ping. So the first time I went in, they just tried to vote kick me without even seeing me play. Not that I'm good, but like, and I was like, but guys, like I'm in Uganda, I have no servers, and they're like, fine, you know. And I'm like, I'm just out there like spamming grenades, but they let me stay. I'm just the funny guy from Africa now, like. The South Africans have some Quake Live servers, actually. They're pretty good. And I play on them when I can, but they're not as full as the European servers. But that's to say that I'm going to import like a $4,000 5090 laptop so that I can play a game from 1999.
Do you play campaign
Yeah, dude, because I got like a 4 TB SSD in there. Like, you add it all together. The 5090 and a laptop, especially in this economy.
Dude.
If you
So...
refunded, B&H have a sale on Lenovo Legion in the 5090.
No, I needed the Alienware. One of the reasons I needed the Alienware was because of the port configurations. They're all in the back. Yeah, I looked at the Legion. I hate to say it. I had to go with the Alienware. Yeah.
Kyle, do you play a lot of campaign games?
I really
story single.
Yeah. So I love Cyberpunk. I played Witcher 2. I played Witcher 3. Like I've been playing campaign games.
So, dude, I'm gonna say this just for your sake is, as a game,
I haven't played Red Dead Redemption 2 yet. I barely played the first one. So that's another one that I'm
for a man that has done everything across Asia and the Middle East. Hasn't fucking played.
But here's why: is because I knew that my 1080 couldn't do it justice.
Okay, now
I want to do some of these games in their full glory, which is why I'm going to replay Cyberpunk. It deserves a replay anyway. I'm going to do it with the full ray tracing now. I'm going to do it on Linux. Yeah. I've got it streaming to my NVIDIA Shield on the couch. I'm going to, I can do it with the controller.
I still think
I'm getting Wi-Fi 6 in my ceiling so that I can get the low latency. And I play a lot of I do a bit of rally racing too, so I've got a wheel set up with the pedals and whatever. Yeah, Dirt Rally 2.0 I'm a big fan of. I hear the newer ones aren't that great. Codemasters is not in the game anymore. They're doing some EA shit. Fuck EA. Yeah.
All right, listen, gaming list. Red Dead Redemption 2, you've got that.
Yeah,
right?
It's high on my queue. I own it already. It's sitting in my Steam backlog, which is like a mile long. I got to get through like Deus Ex. I haven't played the original Deus Ex. I was too busy playing Quake 1.
You know what our problem is? We've got
2006.
we've got a mile long of games, but then whenever we sit down, we go and play what's familiar. The comfort.
Yeah, I watch Predator again and again,
So the Predator movie, the scene where Arnold and what's his name? The actor who passed away. Where they shake their hands in Predator. The famous
Carl Weathers passed away?
Yeah, he did. Right?
I don't follow this. That's sad news.
Okay, but you watch Predator, right? You remember that scene?
Yeah. So with the arm thing,
right,
they're like.
So the coffee pump logo is actually that. is them two,
right?
But it's over coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So Red Dead Redemption 2, Deus Ex. I need to get through. I'm trying to do that on my Steam Deck. Fuck that.
I'm doing. You know what I've actually just burned through? Final Fantasy 6/3 on the Super Nintendo on my. It's fucking great. Like
it's a good game.
It's long. Like I think it could be half the length. You get halfway through. It's a 40-hour game for real. You could probably go 60 to 80 if you're not like great at RPGs.
Okay.
This is Super Nintendo. This is the Final Fantasy 3 in America, but actually Final Fantasy 6 in Japan. This is the game that gave birth to like diverging storylines and narrative in RPGs and whatever. So it was a real classic back when I was growing up, but I didn't play it. So I went through it recently with a friend. And
is God of War on PC? You need to play that, bro.
God of War is a game I missed. Yeah.
So not the PlayStation 3 ones, the remaster.
Right.
Where basically it's a third-person action from the back.
Yeah.
And the entire game is told in one shot. There's no cut.
Yeah.
So you can imagine just the camera rolling for the
Yeah.
entire time. Dude, it's a beautiful game. And the combat and the story.
I'll check it out. I'll wishlist it. And this is what I like about PC gaming, right? I'll pick it up for like $5 when it goes on.
You've got like 3,000 games in your fucking wish
beating
list.
my wallet.
Dude. But
I got a lot of games on my wish list, but I've got a lot of the games that I want to. This is I don't pick up the AAAs. Like I didn't do Helldivers. I'm not doing Arc Raiders. Like
why not? Those are good games.
Because I got a backlog of like games that were decorated like war heroes with Game of the Year awards back in the day that I didn't get to. I haven't played fucking BioShock.
What?
I spent like 20 years of my life playing Quake 1.
Dude, BioShock was insane.
So I missed a lot of this stuff.
Okay, so BioShock 1, 2?
Yeah, I've got both of them.
Dude.
Yeah, I think I'm going to play them. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the remastered or the originals. I like putting myself back in time. I just tried to get through Prey, which was pretty good. Prey was good. I like the story.
So it's like a first-person shooter?
Yeah, it's a first-person shooter, but it's a bit more like something like System Shock. Okay. Where it's kind of like RPG, you're building up capacity and it's story-driven, and it's not tons of combat. It's more about like tension and atmosphere.
Okay. And so is it dinosaurs? Is it aliens? What is it?
It's kind of alien. You're on a space station and you've got these like shape-shifting it's like sciencey sort of.
What was the dinosaur action game? Was
Turok.
that Turok?
Yeah, Turok on the N64 is fucking classic. I replay that maybe once a year on the PC.
I see, that's the problem.
The original Turok. I didn't like Turok 2. I had the expansion pack for the N64 and everything, but it just frame rate wasn't great. Turok 1 is a platformer as much as it is anything else. It was like the Mario 64 of shooters. It was fucking great.
Great, yeah.
Yeah.
IO Interactive are making a James Bond game. So the guys who made
I saw that and it actually looks promising.
Dude, it looks so good.
Yeah,
it looks so good, man.
I'm okay with that. I'll pick it up like 10 years later when it's on sale.
Kyle, as we start winding things down, what's travel looking like for you? So you're going to States?
Yeah. After this, I'm going back to Uganda. Then I'm going to go to the States and visit family and friends. I'm going to do my LAN party. And I want to hit QuakeCon this year because Quake is 30 years old.
QuakeCon is happening.
QuakeCon's been happening every year since Quake, but Quake is officially 30 this year, so I have to believe they're planning something. And Quake is like the biggest game.
Did you ever go for E3?
No, I've never been to any of these. I went to some smaller tournaments when I was playing competitively, but they weren't like any that have survived to today.
And then I think I'm probably going to see you in Kigali.
Yeah.
Any other plans for Kenya in between now and then?
No, I'm just going to the thing tonight, and then for Ranjit.
Oh yeah. So I'll probably catch you over there. But this has been awesome.
It's been great. I enjoy this. I love what you're doing too. The studio looks fun.
Thanks. Yeah. So hopefully the next time you come on Coffee Pump, we'll have a dedicated studio and we're not renting someone's third bedroom.
Whatever works.
Wherever works.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Just before we end, anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to shout out?
No, I think I'm okay.
Awesome, brother. Thank you so much, guys. This has been Coffee Pump. We'll catch you in the next one.